So my journey really started. I'm from Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, which is a state in the United States, and I come from a blue collar background, a lot of hardworking folks in Cleveland, and I learned the importance of work ethic, and really trying to. And I really, I went to college when I was later in my life, when I was 23 years old. I went to art and design school, and I think I worked for several years after high school, and that really taught me about what hard work and discipline meant, and trying to figure out how I could pay for my college education. And so by the time I went to school, to art school, it really was like a job for me. I was like really determined to try to make it and figure out my voice. And I knew I had a lot of things I wanted to say, and I wanted to find, when I graduated college and I started working, I worked as a book jacket designer for 1 year. I worked in branding for a couple of years. I worked at Apple for a year. So the first 4 years of my career, I worked in the workforce. And during that time, I was doing all this extra stuff on nights and weekends and trying to figure out what I wanted to say creatively, how to express myself, writing, drawing, all kinds of different mediums. I didn't care what the medium was. I just wanted to express myself and find avenues to do that. And so through that, I started to develop a voice and started to develop a style in a sense. And through that, I started doing all this work on the side, doing freelance work and building up the kind of work I really wanted to do. And eventually, it was enough that I felt like I could quit my day job, at least to pay my rent. I could make a little money doing the things I really wanted to do at first. And so it just kind of kept going from there and there and there, And so I've been working for myself now for about 7 years. Knock on wood, as they say, it's been going great. I'm trying to continue, and it never stops. I think that no matter where you are creatively or your career or however you want to define it, I think it's a practice, and I think it's you're never too good for what you're doing, and I think there's always new opportunities and new discoveries and evolution to be found and discovered, and I'm interested in that, and in the process and in the journey of the whole thing. So. Well, I think that the two projects I guess maybe I would think about is. That's tough. I think that, I did this project with my good friend Jessica Walsh, 40 Days of Dating, social experiment. And that was the first time, I'd ever done something so personal. At that point, I was starting to develop my illustration style and my voice, and I was starting to get hired to do things. But then suddenly I do this other thing that has nothing to do with the illustration or artwork. It's a completely different entity. It's a completely different beast, and so doing that with Jessica was so profound, not only internally, because we really were working on ourselves and exploring that, but to do something so public that way, and for it to kind of catch on, and all kinds of people across the world to know about it, helped my career in such a defining way as well. But more than that, really it helped me define what kind of work I want to do and put out in the world more and more. And so I was able to realize through that project that I wanted to continue to do that kind of work, because I saw how it touched people, and how people saw themselves in Jessica and I, and that they had the same kind of issues and relationships. And so Jessica and I continued to do this kind of work, several different personal projects, and it also encouraged me to keep doing it on my own and to be open. I'm really interested in what it means to break down the barriers of your professional and your personal life, and to create work that is resonates in the same way. And like I say on stage, for centuries, artists filmmakers and poets and writers, they put their personal life in their work, in their stories, and the things they make. And why can't designers do the same thing? You know, we have the tools to create things in unique ways maybe the public hasn't seen, and so that project was really a launching pad for all the kind of things I wanted to make going forward. I think the second thing I would say is I started a writing series on Instagram called Memories of a Girl I Never Knew. In the same vein, talking about relationships and things, but it really became so much more than that. It really became an outlet for me to document my life with little vignettes and poems as I continue my journey in life, and it's been really close to my heart because it is kind of therapeutic to do it, and it's therapeutic to write them, and it's therapeutic to put them on social media and see how people, connect to them, because that makes me feel less alone. And so it's just been this, and it's a very small thing. It's just a little piece of writing that I post. It's not, there's no heavy production or anything involved, and I continue to do them, and it's very rewarding, and it brings another aspect to who I am creatively, that I'm not in a box. I don't just do one thing or two things. I'm interested in writing, I'm interested in making content and all kinds of things. I said on stage yesterday, I always say to approach design as a practice, not as a profession. And I just mean by that is just this, I think sometimes when we think about professionalism, there becomes some sort of restriction of what you're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to carry yourself as a designer. And I think that we're creative people first and foremost, and this is a journey, and it's not only about a job or money, although it is, of course, we need that, but also what are the things that really bring you joy creatively? Why did you start? And why did you get into this, and what were those feelings and those sensations like? And how do you still tap into that, They say doctors practice medicine, lawyers practice law. Why aren't we practicing? I think myself is continuously practicing because it doesn't feel like there's a limit. It feels like it's boundless, and that's what I'm interested in. So I think that I want students to remember that, because sometimes, when you graduate, you really have to face the hard realities of getting a job and paying rent and all these things. And it's easy then to lose track of that, of course, obviously. But how do we still tap into that curiosity as creative people? And, stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Lovely.